Waiver wired, man. Yeah. We're wired, man. Wavered and wired. And there's not a lot to talk about this week. Again, this is one of the fact that there's not a lot to talk about, but there's a little bit to talk about, but it's exciting enough to talk about that we need to talk about it, is the thing that we're going to talk about. There are very few injuries happening in the NFL. Joe Burrow is the one case. Okay, there's been one major injury to a frontline star player on offense that fantasy gamers care about. That is Joe Burrow. It is not good. We're talking, 12? This season's over. 12 weeks? 12 weeks? With severe turf toe? It's gone. It's gone. The season's over. If you stacked your Bengals, the Bengals onslaught, well, oh, man. Bengals onslaught. Oh, oof. I don't know how that could be worse. It's a bummer, man. It's a bummer. In Superflex leagues, you're bidding on Browning. Browning has weapons. If you add up Browning's stats, his fantasy production with Burrow from week 2, we're talking about a frontline starting quarterback in fantasy. That's what with Chase, Higgins, 2 tight ends that are explosive and athletic. Browning is absolutely an ad in Superflex. It's so interesting because in non-Superflex leagues, he's not even something you wouldn't even talk about him. We would barely talk about streaming him. And yet, if there was a thing to talk about, it would be, what do we bid on Burrow? Do I use a waiver wire claim on Burrow in Superflex leagues? Essentially Browning, because of the Burrow injury. Do I use big time waiver wire capital? We'll call it waiver wire capital on Browning and Superflex. And the answer is yes. The answer is yes. You're not going to find many better options that come along on the waiver wire. You got a good coach. You got great weapons. Every year, a star quarterback goes down. Every year. And in some years, it's Burrow himself. And it opens up an opportunity for a backup quarterback. Ideally, a quarterback that is not bottom 5 in the league at the backup position. Ideally, at least a top 50 talent at the position, we'll say, comes available in Superflex, and then with these weapons, you pounce. I mean, you have to pounce. If you need quarterback help in Superflex, you could put a big Godfather bid down on Browning, like 30% plus, if you need quarterback help. That's the big difference, though. There's no other situation in all of fantasy where your needs matter more than quarterback in Superflex and 2 QB leagues. That's where it matters the absolute most, and that's where Browning is going to be someone that you're going to be aggressively pursuing. And there's going to be DFS lineups where you're going to be stacking Bengals with Browning this year, and even in single quarterback, Browning may be a guy that we add. It's just that there's such a difference in single quarterback. If we take single quarterback as the standard, then we wouldn't even talk about Browning. Right? But if we even entertain this notion that we care about, which we do, Superflex and 2 QB leagues, then Browning is like the number one guy to talk about, because the thing we really need to talk about is that there are so few injuries, especially injuries to star players in the NFL. The injuries from week 2 are, you have Devontae Smith had a back injury. He returned, but he's not 100%. Fields has a concussion. We know about this. This is not great for Garrett Wilson, but it's not the worst thing either. He's going to get all the targets either way. We know about Burrow with the severe turf toe. Officially out 10 to 12 weeks, but I'm saying, I'll be surprised if we see him this season, because this team is going to be deeply uncompetitive in a bunch of games, that really matter. Like, are they going to be competitive against Baltimore? Are they going to be competitive against the Bills? Are they going to be competitive against the Chiefs? All these teams. And their schedule is not great. It's a real bummer, man. It's a real bummer. But I think that Browning can make them more competitive than you might think. The weapons can do a lot. They can do a lot. And you get those multiple tight ends for blocking. Browning's ability to at least sustain this offense, Chase in particular, the law of the conservation of targets says that there will still be plenty of targets sent to Chase in that number one wide receiver chair. And this is why we have the Tom Savage corollary, where DeAndre Hopkins, in a season where he had 8 games with Watson and 8 games with Savage, he had the same production, just a much bigger target share and fewer catchable passes with Savage. Similar scenario is going to play out this year with Chase, where it's not going to be world-ending. You're just losing that high-end upside. You're losing that 20-plus point per game upside, but he's still going to be a guy you're starting every week, and that is very productive for you. T. Higgins, not so fast. When you insert the backup quarterback, it's the number 2, number 3 receivers that suffer most. And so T. Higgins is the one who's really in trouble here. So if you're in a managed league, if you can trade T. Higgins now, I wouldn't hate trading T. Higgins at a low point. I'm not saying run out and do it. Depends on what the offer is. But if you can get a reasonable offer back for T. Higgins, not 1-for-1 what he was, but a reasonable offer, I would take it, because the downside risk of holding on to him and he doesn't produce week in, week out, you keep taking these zeros, you don't make the playoffs, that's big, right? What is the downside risk of letting him go? Is he really going to give you lots of big spike weeks this year with Browning at quarterback? I don't think so. I think it's very much a function. His spike weeks are very much a function of Burrow. And therefore, I don't see a lot of risk in letting go of T. Higgins. Other injuries, noteworthy. Austin Eckler, we'll talk about that today. Tucker Kraft returned. So it's always a Luke Musgrave alert. If you see Tucker Kraft, he left with a chest injury. He returned. And then we have Jaden Reed with a collarbone injury. A couple of these matter. So certainly injuries matter. The Burrow injury being the most impactful for the receivers. Chase Brown's upside is reduced. And Browning becomes this must-add, where there's sort of a stampede to get him in Superflex and 2 QB leagues. If you have a waiver wire claim, I would use it on Browning. It's pretty rare that you're going to find a backup running back, backup quarterback in a Superflex and 2 QB league better than Browning, more valuable than Browning for the rest of the year. It's just it's certainly possible, but I would go in. I would go in hard, aggressively pursuing Browning in 2 QB and Superflex. So that's the first thing. So we have to talk first about what do we do with the vast majority of our funding for our fantasy team? Whether it be, do we have a very valuable waiver claim? Do we use it? Or all this FAAB budget? Do we use it? And there's only this one scenario where Browning is available and you don't have 3 great quarterbacks. As long as you don't have 3 great quarterbacks, if you have 3 quarterbacks you're really happy with, then you can let Browning go. But as long as you don't have 3 great quarterbacks that you would start with confidence against almost any matchup, then I would be bidding aggressively 30% plus in those leagues on Browning. And I say but really it's not. It's right? It's like, but not the worst news. We haven't had a frontline running back or a stud receiver or even we had a tight end in Kittle. But the core positions for fantasy, running back and receiver, I mean, cross your fingers. Keep them crossed. Keep those toes crossed. Just enjoy it. Enjoy that there's very little excuse. I mean, again, in this one format, if you drafted Burrow, then you have a right to be complaining to your friends that, I'm just unlucky. My season's going the wrong way. I can't win. Wah. But usually there's multiple situations where people are like, oh, geez. And if you go back and look, it's not necessarily out for the year injuries. But by this time in the season, 2 games in, usually there's more high ankle sprains. There's more toe injuries. There's more shoulder injuries. There's more concussions. There's more of everything. So something is happening with the strength and conditioning, with the rules, with the equipment, the gear. Something is happening to keep these guys healthier, and I'd be interested in hearing your thoughts. Let me know in the comments. Let me know in the chat, the live chat. I'll be taking some questions from the live chat today. Let me know. What do you think is the number one reason why injuries are down across the NFL? It's making the waiver wire show a little less exciting, but I bring the spoken air guitar, which is the weirdest thing that is possibly ever been said. But there's certainly weirder things. But on a fantasy football podcast, that phrase, manual mouth air guitar, one of the weirder things you're going to hear. And I'm happy to be that guy, happy to break that ground. So we're going to go to Patreon because I post all this on Patreon, patreon.com/Podfather. That's how you support us. That's how you support all the hosts, all the shows. So check it out there. We'll start with the running back position. Tyler Algier, he put up a bunch of fantasy points, 14 fantasy points. He's been getting an even split of carries. He has Carolina. So if there was a week where Atlanta gets out to a big lead, they just want to rest Bijan, as I would do, then this is a great week to play Algier. If you need him, if you're in a deep league and you have lots of flex positions and you need Algier this week, green light to play him. But also, if you are in a shallow league, if you happen to be in a shallow league, one of these 10-teamers or just a league that doesn't have a lot of bench players, I would grab Algier. Algier is like the best handcuff. That's why in the Rabbit best ball game, in all best ball formats, I was like, Algier is going too late. Algier is going too late because his contingent upside is as high as anybody's, and he has some standalone value in these games where Atlanta's enjoying positive game script, as they were last week against the Vikings. And oh boy, J.J. McCarthy is in trouble. He also has picked up an injury. He's going to miss a couple weeks. So woof for Justin Jefferson. I think it's worse for Justin Jefferson than it is for Jamar Chase. Oh man, but that's. Browning, though, right? Browning is the key. Browning is the guy you should be targeting because he could have the full year with the best receivers in the league at his disposal. So Algier, I would go in a shallow league. If you are in one of these shallower leagues and you happen to see that Algier is available, man, I could see 15% bid on him. You would be hard pressed to say that you wouldn't spend up a little bit to get him, because there's got to be a lot of players on benches. I mean, even in shallow leagues, we're carrying multiple bench running backs. Algier should absolutely be rostered in all these leagues. I can't believe he's still available in 50+% of leagues on Yahoo. It makes no sense. He needs to be rostered. Based on the contingent upside alone, forget that you could use him against Carolina this week. You'd want Algier for the contingent upside alone. Who is even the number 3 running back in Atlanta? I mean, they got a touch yet this year? Don't answer that. Rachaad White. Rachaad White is an option. He produced. Because why? There's a need in Tampa for quality pass catchers. And, Rachaad White's one of the better pass catchers on that team at this point because there's no McMillan, there's no Godwin. And so now he has to step up and run more routes and, cut a touchdown last week, looked great, which when he gets out and starts running routes, he's just a good player. But, he was involved in the running game this past week, which was cool to see. He would be the main back if something were to befall Bucky Irving. We don't want that to happen, but it is possible. And because it's possible, and Rachaad White has an all-purpose skill set, you could argue that his contingent upside is not quite Algier level, but it's high. It's high. So even in shallow leagues, if you're trolling around and you see Rachaad White, I would dabble. I would put a couple bucks down on him, try to get him. You have to. After last week, you could have got him for $1, but now you have to put in like 3% of your budget-ish to try to get him because if they produced, everyone's just sorting. Remember, everyone's sorting the waiver wire by fantasy points. So they see, Algier produced, Rachaad White produced. Even though Bijan's healthy, even though Bucky Irving's healthy, these guys are going to get rostered for that reason. So you have to pay up a little bit. Corum is interesting, even that he produced, but this was in the fourth quarter. He was called upon late, but it was great to see him getting touches, scoring in a game where Kyren Williams was inefficient. He's another guy that I'm convinced has big contingent upside. If Kyren Williams goes down, based on the touch distribution in the early weeks, I'm convinced the Rams would just go all in on Corum. And for that reason, he needs to be rostered in all shallow leagues. And in deep leagues where he's still available, I would go up to 3% to try to get him rostered, even in deep leagues. Now, if we just focus on deep leagues, Woody Marks is a clear target. He was getting involved, looked explosive, certainly the most explosive back on that roster. He's an all-purpose back with receiving skills in that he has a unique ability to help the team that Mixon no longer has and Chubb no longer has. And his role is only going to grow as these weeks go on. You can see him developing the trust. They need fresh backfield talent. He's the guy. I would put like 2% down on in deep leagues, try to get him rostered now. I wouldn't overspend because you don't need to. He didn't put up fantasy points. Remember, everyone's sorting by fantasy points. So you can just go and keyword search Marks, slide him in for 1 or 2% of your budget in deep leagues, and thank me later. The same thing is true with Chris Rodriguez. Now, I love Jeremy McNichols. I once interviewed Jeremy McNichols. I like Jeremy McNichols, but I think at this point, Jeremy McNichols has had plenty of opportunity to be a starting running back in the league. It is not going to happen. He's a special teamer. That's why he was active and Chris Rodriguez was inactive the last couple of weeks, because they said, hey, we're in on Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. Austin Eckler is a team captain, and McNichols is a special teamer, and that's the active roster. Done, right? Now you remove Eckler with the Achilles tear, and who gets elevated, who gets promoted from the practice squad? It's Chris Rodriguez. But now, see, things change. Who's going to take Eckler's role? Is it going to be McNichols? Is it going to be Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt? I'm guessing it's going to be Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt because McNichols is primarily a special teamer, which then opens up a bunch of between the tackles carries and potential red zone looks for Rodriguez. He didn't do anything. He's been inactive this season, so no one is trying to pick him up. Everyone is looking at the depth chart, and there's McNichols, who's behind Krosky-Merritt. And so officially on the depth chart, with Eckler going to IR, Rodriguez will be number 3. Again, no one, even in deeper leagues, is going to be rushing out to get Chris Rodriguez. So you can stash him now, get him now, see what the touch allocation is going to be this week, and just make sure you have him rostered. He's an interesting guy because, Chris Rodriguez, he's not that slow. He runs a 4.57. That's 56th percentile with plenty of size. That's why his speed score is 64th percentile. He's best comparable to Jeff Wilson. Stranger things have happened. The guys have hung around the league because they're trusted in pass protection and they run hard, and then there's an injury and they score a bunch of touchdowns at age 25. I mean, isn't this a tale as old as time, really? I think it is. I'm pretty sure it is. Other players to scoop. Ray Davis got a bunch of carries in garbage time, clock milking mode. I wouldn't be so excited about Ray Davis. It's clearly James Cook has the role, has the contract, is productive. But he should be rostered in any serious league that's not super shallow. Ray Davis should be rostered. In deeper leagues, Ollie Gordon should be rostered. He's a handcuff. DJ Giddens still a one-for-one handcuff. He might get dropped. Rico Dottle can get dropped. Pick him up if he is. Monangai, he's an interesting handcuff now, officially. Poor Roshan Johnson. Caleb Johnson is a talented running back, but the Steelers are known for slow-playing rookies and giving that veteran deference. It's just that, it's funny. I haven't gotten the memo from the teams as to which teams are irrationally rookie-averse, like Pittsburgh, and which have totally come to Jesus and they're happy to play rookies, seventh-round rookies, the most snaps in week one of anyone at the position, like Washington with Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. Like these things come from the side. They surprise me because I'm like, hey, this is not normal. What Pittsburgh's doing with Caleb Johnson is normal. What Washington is doing with Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt is not normal, and I love it. And I think that we're going to see more and more and more and more of it as years go along. But for now, Pittsburgh is still one of these antiquated franchises, very traditional, the way they bring guys along. But Caleb Johnson's so good, and they're going to need him. I think now is the time to stash him. Also, don't forget to stash Tajay Spears. Tajay Spears injured, but he will be back, and the schedule is going to get better for the Titans. It can't get worse. At receiver, we need to talk, right? I think we need to talk about Wan'Dale Robinson. I have always loved Wan'Dale Robinson. I also love Edelman. I love quarterbacks in college that convert quickly. They just decide, hey, I'm not going to be a quarterback at the next level. I don't have the arm strength. I'm too small, whatever it is. I'm going to convert, and I'm going all in on running back, or I'm going all in on receiver. Jerick McKinnon, another converted quarterback. It turns out these quarterbacks, they see the field. They know where to be. They're super smart. Edelman's super smart. Jerick McKinnon, super smart running back. Wan'Dale Robinson, super smart receiver. Not overly impressive with his metrics, right? But he's fast enough. Like he has that explosiveness, the 4.44 speed. And now he's translating it into production. And it's cool to see, right? It's cool to see. So, I mean, if it were me, I would be pretty aggressively pursuing Wan'Dale Robinson if I needed receiver help. Now, it's certainly predicated on you needing receiver help. Because if you don't bother. Like, don't allocate a lot of money to wide receiver. We had the one exception last week, and that was it. That was it. Marquise Brown was it. That was our exception for the year. We're out of exception tickets. We can no longer spend up on wide receiver. That includes Wan'Dale Robinson. I know he had 140 targets. He's an underrated athlete. He's the clear-cut number 2 option. I get all of this. And the funny thing is, the quarterback play could get even better with Jackson Dart. If you watch Russell Wilson, yeah, he's got some nice throws. Right? He when he's under pressure, when he's scrambling around, he makes some nice throws, but there are some complete head-scratcher throws he's making out there. It is possible that Jackson Dart actually makes that team even better. You certainly can't use week 2 against the Cowboys as any kind of measurement of Russell Wilson's ability to keep his job. And technically, it was the wild game of my lifetime. I mean, I shut my phone down. I was watching on my phone in the car. The Cowboys score. I'm like, oh my God. And then there's the neighbors touchdown. I'm like, oh wow, they won. 24 seconds left. They're kicking the field goal. Good for you, Giants. I remember saying, good for you, Giants. Good for you, Giants fans. And then only found out, I think, at least a half an hour later, after I put my phone away and I was walking and talking, and then someone said, hey, did you see that game? I was like, yeah, crazy, can't believe the Giants won. They're like, the Giants didn't win. I'm like, what? The Giants didn't win? How is that possible? They have Wan'Dale Robinson. But yeah, so I would say let's put a number on this. 5%. In a shallow league, you wouldn't go more than 5% on Wan'Dale. No more than 10% in deep leagues. He's very valuable receiver. You want to get him. If anyone's saying go get Troy Franklin or some other receiver, Alec Aomaner, ignore them. Wan'Dale is the target. If you're going to target a receiver this week, it is Wan'Dale Robinson, Wan'Dale Robinson, Wan'Dale Robinson. This team's going to have to be playing from behind. The quarterback play is better than we expected and could get even better. And he himself, turns out he earned all those 140 targets last time. And we can look for more of the same. Now, I have a bunch of other receivers to talk about. I have a bunch of tight ends to talk about. I have some quarterback takes. I have questions from the audience. I have a lot to do. A lot to get to, waiver wired. And we'll get into all of it after this. Pour one out for an incredible best ball season. It was a breakout 2025 for Fast Draft, but now the NFL action has started. That means it's DFS season. That's right. You might think, oh, wow, DFS, I can't win DFS. Oh, but you can on Fast Draft. You just pick any 6 guys, and you put them in a handful of booster spots. There's no salary rubric you have to follow. You're not going up against thousands of killer bots in these tournaments. Oh, no. These are regular people grabbing their 6 favorite plays of the week, and that's all you have to do. And we post the ownership so that you can choose how much chalk you want. There is no drafting. It's called the Quick 6 Super Slam. The Quick 6 Super Slam is the signature DFS contest at Fast Draft. It is changing DFS. We are making DFS great again. So go to fastdraft.app and use your host promo code for a $50 deposit match. And let's go start drafting faster. The promo code is FAST. The promo code is FAST on Fast Draft. The Super Slam. I mean, what more can I say? I mean, what an innovation. I'm very proud of it. And thank you all, by the way, for the well wishes in the chat. I know that many of you have been clamoring for more shows from me. I am doing my absolute best. I know that Top 10 Takeaways is being handled by Pete Nova. Pete Nova is sharp. He is really sharp. I have scoured the industry looking for talent to help support the network, to host these shows. And I can promise you're going to have a hard time finding anyone better than Pete Nova. You think about the Dynasty shows that we have, you're going to have a hard time finding guys better than Jax Falcone and the Undroppables and Memphis and the Dynasty Warzone. And I'm very grateful for all of the hosts that contribute to the network in various ways. But I also appreciate how much you all want me to continue to broadcast, and I will. I'm not going to stop. I mean, this year, there's been a modification. The Mind of Mansion is essentially the plays of the week. It's made it a lot easier that I can just do a solo show instead of an interview show. It turns out the interview booking element, it was the thing that was really difficult, was to go all the back and forth and find people and then finding times for them that worked with me. It was just a peek behind the curtain. That was the underlying reason why there's not an interview show during the season, is that logistically it became untenable. And I frankly don't remember how I even did it in past years. It's crazy. And I have to spend a lot of my time right now raising money for Fast Draft, raising $5 million. So you have a lot of pitches when you're raising $5 million in a financing round, because we showed incredible metrics with Fast Draft Q2, Q3, and we know we just need gasoline poured on this fire, and we're going to be off. It's going to be explosive, right? It's going to be explosive. Let's just say rocket fuel. and make it a rocket. How about that? We're going to outer space. We're going to the moon. So that's what I'm doing. And I've got a hell of a pitch deck. And, if let's say that I secure an investor for $100,000, that is going to have more value to the company than me doing a podcast. I wish that wasn't the case. Okay. And I'm securing this funding to make it so that I can do more shows, that I can do more podcasting. So I just want to make sure all of you know that I'm here for you. I will answer some questions in the chat today. I am, again, and I've seen a bunch of you signing up on Patreon, patreon.com/Podfather, and I just want to express to all of the new patrons, thank you for doing that. It's all very helpful to keep this operation going, both Player Profiler and Fast Draft. I think they're equally important properties for maintaining and building on the future of fantasy football, right? I mean, the future of fantasy sports is in our hands, but in particular, I feel a responsibility to have a place where people can play and make it easy, make it fun, and have a place people can look up all the information they would need to make good decisions, and then also congregate and be part of a whole streaming experience or a podcast, all this media. It's very important to me that we do this, and part of what I believe my mission is to create these platforms, and then the platforms will live on with or without me, and then I will be able to, once we have an established app where we have tens of thousands of users on Fast Draft, just like we do on Player Profiler, then I can start to crank out more podcasts, do more streaming, and more audience engagement and interaction, because that is where my true happy place is. So I just want to make sure that I shared that with you, because sometimes I think it, but then I don't say it. And then someone in the chat brings up something that pushes a button, and then boom, there's all that information that you might have been wondering about but probably not caring. Number 2 on the wide receiver priority list for this week on the waiver wire, get Wan'Dale Robinson, and then Troy. Oh no! It's actually not Troy Franklin. It's Dontavian Wicks. Because why? The injuries. There's no injuries in Denver. We have a broken collarbone for Jaden Reed in Green Bay. Dontavian Wicks steps up and is an alpha receiver with a lot of positive game script in week 2. Negative game scripts are coming. He looks the part of an outside alpha. That said, I'm even more excited to see Matthew Golden dropped. This happens every year. You have a player who is poised to step up, has everything that you would want, with the exception of prolific college production. But let's put that off to the side. Imagine he had prolific college production. And I know that's in a big imagination you would have to have, because he so didn't. Well, be hard to build a better waiver wire candidate in a lab than Dontavian Wicks, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it? I think so. So he has the role. He's running the routes. He's getting the targets. This is what you want. But if we did get a drop of Matthew Golden, and it is possible. I mean, I'm telling you, you don't believe me. I know a lot of you don't believe me. But one of the reasons why you can trust me in this chair is because I've seen a lot of things and I've been in a lot of leagues. You will see Matthew Golden dropped even in some deep leagues, given how little he's produced. He doesn't have the draft capital in fantasy. We're talking about, what, a 10th round pick, a 9th round pick, an 11th round pick. He's in that fringe top 100. Those guys are pretty straightforwardly, easily churned, right? It's like, hey, Javonte Williams is the guy. So Jaden Blue, right? I understand why this is what happens. You have a lot of guys getting dropped now. They have to start making tough decisions, and you don't produce at all. I wouldn't drop him. I'm the opposite. I'm hoping he gets dropped. I'm knowing he'll get dropped. And I am tuning in on Wednesday to see, okay, does he hit the waiver wire? Does he hit the waiver wire? This is a big deal. So checking whether Matthew Golden hits the waiver wire is as important as any bid you put down on Dontavian Wicks. I wouldn't put much in a shallow league. Shallow league, you're probably not going to start him, so maybe 1 or 2%. But in deeper leagues, I would go up to 8% to get him. Troy Franklin, I wouldn't go more than 1% in shallow leagues, up to 5% in deep leagues. The lesson here is that snap shares matter. Snap share drives future depth charts. Franklin outsnapped Marvin Mims even back in week 1. Then he dominated the targets in week 2. You saw smart DFS grinders targeting Mims and Franklin last week. We knew this in the plays of the week, talking about how susceptible the Colts secondary is to outside speed. So it's fun to see smart people playing Franklin, playing Mims, and at least getting that 10-plus fantasy points. Even this week, you're going to have the Chargers who just made Geno Smith look awful. Embarrassed him, right? They embarrassed Geno Smith. This is the problem when you stream based on factors outside are you good or not. Like, this is going to happen with Daniel Jones. I'm just telling you all right now. I mean, I'll say it. We'll skip right ahead. We'll skip right to it. My stream of the week is Daniel Jones. Okay. And my stash is Zach Wilson because the Giants won, but they're still 0-2. Jackson Dart's in play. The Dolphins lost. Felt like they were competitive, right? The Giants were competitive. They still lost. They're 0-2. That means Tua's job is at risk. Zach Wilson is a stash. He's a great stash in 2QB and Superflex leagues. Daniel Jones, you're just streaming in all formats this week. However, you do need to be prepared for the Daniel Jones games. There will be Daniel Jones games, just like there was a Geno Smith game. And the smartest people that I know were right there with me streaming Geno Smith this week. And it didn't work out. Right? It didn't work out streaming Geno Smith this past week. Because the Chargers defense was just too ferocious. And they were just too disruptive. And that can happen. When you stream a quarterback based on the game total and the game environment and the weapons and all these things, and then you're like, we've really lined this up. Sometimes the defense just shows up with an incredible game plan and makes that quarterback look stupid. And that's just going to happen. That's going to happen to Browning. That's going to happen to Darnold as it does. It's going to happen to Geno Smith. It's going to happen to more of the quarterbacks that have been sort of recycled or have been rejuvenated. They're only rejuvenated and recycled to a point, right? We love Justin Fields, but those Fields games are coming where the defense just thwarts him. They've got the sideline-to-sideline linebackers that take care of the rushing, and then they confuse him with the looks, and the next thing you know, Fields is putting up 5 fantasy points. That's in his range of outcomes, right? The mobility increases his floor slightly, but with all average to below average starting quarterbacks in the league, streaming is a difficult thing. It's a difficult science. So I just want to make sure everyone that streamed Geno Smith, don't feel bad. That is going to happen. The other problem is sometimes you'll stream a player against an easier defense, right? Okay, well, the Chargers should have known. They have playmakers on defense. Okay, well, I play another quarterback in a situation where they're playing what I believe to be a bottom 5 defense against opposing quarterbacks. Oh, but they're up all game and they're crushing, and it's not that competitive. Now what? Right? Either way, there was a possibility that Raiders and Chargers was a shootout, and Geno Smith delivered big time. So that was very possible. I thought there was a nice ceiling game opportunity with Geno Smith. I couldn't fully get my head around the downside risk for Geno Smith in week 2. Again, this is the same. This is very similar with Daniel Jones this week, right? It probably won't. It'll probably be good. I'm excited about Daniel Jones this week. I'm excited about Daniel Jones, period. Like, how can you not be excited about Daniel Jones, right? This is so cool. I mean, I'm very happy about this because we even talked about playing Daniel Jones and drafting him as your second quarterback in best ball. Right? And, you can go double fringe QBs if you want to go 3. But if you also have a stud, we talked about this. If you have a superstar quarterback, you have a Josh Allen, okay, Josh Allen level superstar quarterback, and you want to wait forever for your second quarterback, Daniel Jones very much in play. Okay. So that was just a fun thing to talk about. Yeah, stacking Colts with Daniel Jones. Fun time to be alive. Just celebrate it. So now we're back to receivers. So that's what we're doing at quarterback this week. Back to receiver. Troy Franklin. I just think that will Bo Nix struggle like Geno Smith did this week against the Chargers? I don't think so. I'm getting more and more faith in Bo Nix. The problem is not the Chargers matchup. The problem is in the long run, this glut of weapons, right? I do believe, though, this is a good matchup this week for Troy Franklin. I do believe in picking him up. I have him as the number 3 option. I've just seen him in many places the number 1 option, and I vehemently disagree with that. I think Robinson and Wicks are much better options for the full season. If you wanted him just for this week against the Chargers, I do think he's very interesting against the Chargers. I think this game could shoot out. So picking him up and playing him this week is not point chasing. Playing him in DFS, not point chasing at all. But generally speaking, I just can't bring myself to bid big on the number 3 receiver who has another receiver in Mims with a relatively redundant skill set on a team that has an established alpha in Cortland Sutton. Like, when I phrase it like that, I mean, are you excited about this guy when I phrase it like that? I know he's done well. And it really is cool to see a guy with great workout metrics. We're talking about 90th percentile speed, 82nd percentile burst, and he was super productive in college, right? Put up big numbers in college. So if we check out his college stats, put up close to 1,400 yards, 70% catch rate, 14 touchdowns at Oregon as a 20-year-old. That's pretty impressive. He is impressive. He fell in the draft to day 4, right? The 4th round. So he fell to the 4th round. Why? He fell to the 4th round because there were questions about his hands, questions about his route running. It was all feel-based, right? Where the data was strong, but the feels were weak. And I prefer the data over the feels every time. So I'm very bullish on Troy Franklin. But in seasonal leagues, these auxiliary receiving options should not be bid up. We have to stick to the process. Same thing with Alec Aomaner. I like Alec Aomaner. I think he's fun. I'm excited about him. You should be excited about him. He's another guy with similar workout metrics. He's athletic. Looks like a more athletic version of Khalil Shakir. He's been productive. He's the clear number 2 option. Oh, if you like Wan'Dale Robinson, why don't you like Alec Eilman? Well, Alec Eilman doesn't have a 140 target season on his resume. So you'll have to excuse me. Okay, I think I'm excited about Calvin Ridley for the rest of the season. I am happy to play Chikakonkwo when it makes sense. I'm saying stash Tajay Spears, but I can't go as far as advocating for any kind of aggressive acquisition of Alec Eilman as a rookie on a bad team. That is what he is, and Calvin Ridley will continue to be the number 1 option, even though Eilman continues to outproduce him. 3%. That's a long way of saying I would put 3% of my budget in deep leagues on Eilman. That's it. 5% on Franklin, 3% on Eilman, and you'll probably lose him. You probably won't get him. I understand that. Who will you get instead? You probably get Josh Palmer, because I'll put 2% down on Palmer. He's running lots of routes in the league's best offense. The end. Did he also sign a contract that was more than he was worth? Yes. Orders of magnitude more than they're paying Elijah Moore? Yes. Is it a relatively weak receiving core? Yes. Look at their ADPs compared to other teams with top flight quarterbacks. None of the wide receivers on Buffalo even got close to, say, even Zay Flowers' ADP. So the Josh Palmer stream is a great one. And I know you might be saying, well, you with the streaming, it's very tricky. Yeah, it is tricky. In fact, here's how tricky streaming is. This is why, again, if you played Geno Smith, do not feel bad. If you played Josh Palmer in super deep leagues or in DFS, do not feel bad. Remember, Josh Palmer was the leading receiver on the best offense in week 2. Okay? Leading receiver on the best offense in the NFL in week 2. And it meant nothing because they got up huge. Special teams gets involved, contributing to the scoreboard. Next thing you know, it's just we're going to run out the clock in the second half, and we're not going to even send any fantasy points to receivers in the Bills. Khalil Shakir did even worse. We said bench Keon Coleman. I mean, it was a debacle. And what is a blowout win, an exciting win for the fans of that team, becomes a debacle for anyone that tried to play. Like, oh, that was a soft matchup. Yeah, well, be careful what you wish for. There is a real fine line between trying to find a shootout in a game you know is going to be competitive because that team is good, like the Chargers, and when you go up against a bad team, how bad can they be? Maybe they're too bad to even maintain a shootout, and therefore a team never gets in a hurry-up mode, and there just isn't a lot of passing, and none of the receivers get there that week, and that's what happened with Josh Palmer and company in Buffalo. But the bottom line is he was the leading receiver on the week on a team that we know as the best offense. So process-wise, it was a huge win. Right? And if you try to explain this to someone who's not intimately familiar with how fantasy football works, they're just going to make fun of you for playing Josh Palmer. And you're like, no, actually it was a great play. It was look, his ownership was nothing. I went to page 2 and I found him, and he was set up in a perfect situation, huge upside week for it could have been big. It's just the way things shook out with the game script, and then it's a hard case to make. I get it. But we know. You know that I know that you know that I know that we know. Josh Palmer is a great process play, and he's a guy you can pick up now, right? This is the whole reason why we don't overspend on receivers, because the Josh Palmer is always going to be there. There's always going to be a guy that happened to find himself on the right team in the wrong game script. And that's the guy you can go grab. Another interesting guy to stash right now, maybe put 1% in deep leagues, just because I think that it's just a matter of time, is Torrey Horton. I mean, Torrey Horton's got that Robbie Anderson level speed, the chosen one, dominant college resume, even more dominant than Troy Franklin. He has a lot of similarities to Troy Franklin, actually. And if we go to his college stats, wasn't as productive because he had that lost season in 2024. He would have got drafted earlier had he not get injured as a senior. I think that's a dead certainty. So I'm in on Torrey Horton. I think that they have these redundant slot receivers. One's good, one's bad. JSN's good. Cooper Kupp's bad, by the way. So why not just take a chance on the fact that, hey, the Seahawks know they're going to have to start to stretch the field, and Torrey Horton would be the beneficiary. And this week, who do they get? New Orleans, right? Is New Orleans good enough and bad enough to create a shootout game environment with the Seahawks? Probably not. Probably not. Probably it's going to be a low-scoring game. And then the game total will let us know. The game total, as you can see, I mean, Seattle is 7.5-point favorites. Damn. Right? I can't. The NFL likes Seattle. The NFL likes Seattle, so I'm a little bit worried that the Saints can't push them and therefore can't get Torrey Horton involved in the second half. If this becomes a game in any way, then Torrey Horton is very interesting. But it's like on the surface, the Saints would be the perfect matchup. Oh, it's an easy matchup. Oh, well, it's an easy matchup for Kenneth Walker. It's a great matchup for JSN. You'd rather have like something that looks more like a shootout for any of the auxiliary receivers. But I'm picking him up no matter what. I'm picking him up even if it's not this week, it'll be the next week. He's going to have a breakout week. Other guys you could scoop if they're dropped. Cedric Tillman didn't deliver, but he did get the touchdown. It's a possibility Cedric Tillman's dropped in shallow leagues. I would pick him up. We talked about picking up Matthew Golden for sure. Have that radar locked. Set up an alert. Can you set up a text alert, an email alert if Matthew Golden gets dropped in your league? That's a good feature. Kayshon Boutte didn't really deliver, didn't produce, but he is a key component of that passing game. He's going to have weeks. Rashad Bateman's going to have weeks. Deep leagues. Rashad Bateman might just get dropped, but I think he's gonna be a guy that you can throw a dart on and just ride the volatility wave. And Jalen Coker is on IR, and Jalen Coker eventually is going to come back into a great situation, which is why I like Jatavian Sanders. Jatavian Sanders is widely available. I'd put 10% down on him in tight end premium. He had another 9-target game. I'd put 5% in deep leagues. So he's the Carolina's second best receiver right now. Like until Jalen Coker gets back, and that matters. And they play Atlanta this week. I think it's perfect. This is a great week to stream Jatavian Sanders. That's my stream of the week. Chigakonkwu is another one. These guys are both athletic. I love athletic tight ends. And Konkwu is a great red zone option. And they're playing Indy this week. So Konkwu and Sanders, both interesting. Right? They're both interesting. Another guy, because I'm looking at Seattle and I'm seeing how targets are consolidating, Elijah Arroyo. Elijah Arroyo. I think it's Arroyo. Elijah Arroyo is big and fast. He's best comparable to Eric Ebron, a first-round tight end. They're playing New Orleans. Stranger things have happened. There's going to be, rookie tight end production, and they traded Noah Fant for a reason. They really believe in this kid. Now he's starting to get the targets. Saw that uptick in usage in week 2. Now I'm interested. But the beauty is he didn't get big fantasy points this week, so it's not tough to pick him up. Cheap. Get him inexpensive. Other guys I might consider picking up if they're dropped. Brenton Strange, disappointed. Noah Fant, he's still the featured option, but he's not nearly as attractive now that it's Browning. Noah Fant's kind of Pat Freiermuth, Darren Waller. It's pretty bleak. It's like, I like these 3 guys, Jatavian Sanders, Chigakonkwu, and Elijah Arroyo. After that, Just me saying those names out loud, I was like, oh, this is gross. This is disgusting. I don't want any part of that. But Arroyo, yeah, between Arroyo and Horton, that would be interesting. If you were in a deep league, I can consider it's possible that you could stash both of them right now. And I wouldn't hate it. Hey, I want to take a moment to thank you for tuning in. It's important to me that all of our media be free. This is only possible because of you allowing a true independent sports media enterprise to thrive unlike any other in the business. So please subscribe to the All In Package to continue to make all of this possible, to ensure that all of our stats, information, data, content is available to you, especially you, the people that get the site and get the show.